Hello everyone! Today we're going to collaborate on our favorite supplementary classes. When we're talking about supplemental classes for VIPKid, we are talking about VIPKid Storytime, Leveled Reading, Grammar, TOEFL, VIPKid Phonics, Proper Pronunciation, Free Talk, Voice of VIPKid, From Words to Sentences, VIPKid Phonics, VIPKid Vocabulary, Dinosaurs, Health, Space, Power of the Sun, New Grammar, New Voice of VIPKid, Knowledge Up, and JCL.
In the proper pronunciation, you start out with sounds. I think they must give them somewhat of a trial because I teach a lot of the first class. That's working on Unit 1, Lesson 1. It's OU. Then with the OU, you do OU and L. So you work on the ow sound like mouse, mouth. So it's a lot of repetition for one sound. From there, you move into sounds, words, and then sentences. And the other thing that I really like about it is you end with intonation. So it teaches them the inflection that we have in our voice as we speak. And they do know intonation because they use a lot of inflections. I mean, one word, if you say it differently, changes for them. So they understand that a lot. I do think for some of the kids, it can be a little repetitive. You have to kind of bring in a little more fun, I think, into those lessons because you're doing a lot of the same thing over and over again. But like I said, I do recommend this to some of my kids that are struggling with certain sounds. And I will even put that in my learning partner. You know, they continue to struggle with this sound. Maybe proper pronunciation would be good for them for a certain number of classes.
I love leveled reading. I think it's fun to get into the story and the kids get into the story and find out what happens. One time I had a kid that was still at the repeating stage and that was a long level reading. But other than that, I love leveled reading.
That one has some double slides though on it, right? They read the slide and then the next slide is the same, but there's a question at the bottom.
Yes.
So if I'm running out of time, I circle the question, we go over the question instead of reading it over and over again.
They're fun unless I get a student that has like a hard time answering comprehension questions. Then they can be a little bit challenging, but apart from that, I think they're pretty interesting. They're fun to teach.
I have only taught one and I did not prepare because I do that sometimes. I'm like, I got this, I know everything. And then I was like, oh my. So it took me by surprise and I didn't like it, but I just wasn't ready. So I'll be ready next time.
Do you use Google Slides?
I know.
That's helpful. If you don't want to take a lot of time preparing, then it helps.
Candy said level reading. Please help me. I tend to get kids who can't read a lick. They need phonics classes, not leveled reading. It seems to be 25 minutes of them parroting.
In those cases, I write to the LP that they need phonics.
And I'm starting to do that way more now since y'all have suggested that, because they have so many kids that they're over probably that they would love your suggestion. JCL is Junior Creators League. So there's basketball, fashion design, and biology. But it's supposed to cover the 3 C's, and so I wrote it down: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. It's project-based learning. Instead of in the normal projects where they tell them what to do, this is they come up with their own project. You kind of direct them, but they get a lot more freedom in it. It's really, really cool. And if you have a student who's really into it, my little girl, she made a tree and talked all about the tree. So it's very good for more advanced students.
VIPKid Storytime. I love Storytime because I love reading stories with expression, and you get to popcorn read and echo read, and those are all just fun ways to get the kids interacting with you. I was a little bit worried because my level 5 was doing Storytime, and I was like, she reads so well, she's going to be bored. But I was able to really stress using her voices and being silly, but reading the words and full of expression. So I actually had fun with her, even though it was just way too easy and not really helpful towards her, you know. So she did a few of them and then she's back to her level 5.
A lot of the kids memorize the stories. If you've noticed, they memorize it. So it is a good way for us to go back and check their comprehension. And I'll even stop them and I'll say, let's stop a minute. Let's talk about what has just happened. Because they do, I think they memorize a lot of that and don't really understand what you're talking about.
And I think that's another reason why the echo reading and popcorn reading are good. Not just for the kids that need your extra help, but I think it makes them read what's on the slide because they have to stop. They have to pick up where we left off. Okay, Casey, I have been waiting to hear about dinosaurs.
So like I have my little dinosaur puppet. I've had this since I first started 2 years ago. They're ages 7 to 12, and it's level 5 or above. It's really cool because this is also like a STEAM and PBLs. They do projects as like we go along in the unit. So in each lesson, they have to have a project done. I think a lot of times they build off of their previous project. For my reward, I like to build a dinosaur. So you get like the head, and then like they give you spikes or whatever, and you choose the body, and then in the end it might look something like this.
Is that a Google slide or what is that from?
That was on SlideKick. Yeah, on Google Slides, yeah. And then there's also like a Feed the Dinosaurs.
Okay, ladies, free talk.
I just love being able to talk to the kids. Most of the time it goes great. We read the slide. After reading the slide, I'll put it back on them. What do you think? What have you been doing? So usually it just becomes a conversation and you can ask about them. Most of the time, like free talk classes are great.
I like the vocabulary. The vocabulary, there's like community helpers, body parts, clothes. I think they're bright, they're colorful, they're fun, they're interactive. Does anyone else teach vocabulary?
Yeah, I've taught some before, and I think they're fun. I know there's a lot of slides. Some teachers were saying that they had more time in the end, so they would have to extend, but I found like there were plenty of slides to kind of keep you going through it.
How about from words to sentences?
I think it's a great idea, and I'm going to recommend it now to some of my lower levels because it gives you the words and it kind of builds the sentence. It's a ball, it's a blue ball, and it just builds, which breaks it down for them, scaffolds it for you and for them, and it makes your job easier. You just have to remember to move quickly because there are 66 slides. But other than that, it's just like a normal class, except they're doing it for you, scaffolding.
Candy wants to know if anyone has any tips on how to make grammar fun.
Actually, I taught one today. It was one of the new grammar where they were learning like a question mark, a period, an exclamation mark. He was getting into exclamation. He was like yelling. So that was good.
Voice of VIP Kid. Y'all scared me off, but I taught one and it actually went really well. We had so much fun. It was a younger student. And so it's one of those things, somebody else doesn't like it, but you might like it. And if you don't, you can just remove it.
I have one student and she never smiled. She has not smiled. I've probably taught her 20 classes now, and I keep writing in there, my goal is to get her to smile. And I have about tried everything. And I'm like, it is so hard to teach someone that is just like
It
this.
is.
You're teaching them a skill. You're teaching them how to get the answer without actually reading it. So you're teaching them to look for keywords in the questions and then skim. I've had bad ones. One time I had a kid where I was teaching her the Bossy E rule. I was teaching her phonics and I couldn't really teach, but that's the exception, not the rule. Usually they're great. Personally, I think phonics is really good for the student who is struggling with the letter sounds. So if the teacher-to-teacher feedback is he has a really hard time, she can't get through the lesson, that's the student it's perfect for because you get to work on each sound with them. And since the name of the course is phonics, I will not tell them what that word is. They have to sound it out and I'll keep going over it. I'm like, no, you said eh. This is E, and I'll make them sound it out, I think it's when the light bulb goes off, then I really like phonics. I know people say that it's boring, but when by the end, they're actually sounding out the words and you see that it clicked, then I love it.
Thanks. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for saying
Bye.
Bye.